Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Kwober, and today Wayne Steiger is back. He has a wonderful YouTube channel, and I highly recommend you subscribe and watch the videos. And today we are going to talk about bloodlines. I will do a little series about this subject. Another guest, of course, will be Gary Wayne. He will come on later in May. And we will see if there will be a third part. I don't know yet. But as of now, Wayne, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you, Judith. I always enjoy our times together. It is stimulating on a intellectual level, which is great, and even on that spiritual level. And Gary Wayne I have his book. He's a very interesting author. I think he's got some very unique points of view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that exactly. And so for the audience and those people that might stumble on this interview accidentally,
Oops.
what do you mean when you talk about bloodlines?
Bloodlines, interesting. If you just want to get down to a basic level, we're all a part of a bloodline.
Mm.
When we're born, we have an ancestral blood lineage that basically identifies who and what we are. If you didn't have a bloodline, then who are you? So, taken in that vein is in the reality that we live in with Homo sapiens. I mean, we're really pretty a brutal race, and where we have kings, lords, the monarchies.
Can
That's
you read my mind? Because I wanted to go into the direction of the divine right to rule. And we didn't talk about that, correct?
No.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I love synchronicity. It becomes very apparent that this is a template that is really very old. I mean, I think it even may precede mankind as a living species. And it's very clear, even if you look at today's world structure, whether you believe as a globalist, whether you're a New World Order theorist, it really doesn't matter. There is someone who is pulling all the switches.
Mm-hmm.
And even our president here today, it's interesting. He said that if he didn't stop talking, that he would be in trouble. Well, in trouble with whom? You're the freaking president. Who's above you? Well, I think he let it slip. It's like, yeah, there is somebody above me. And when you look at particularly the European aristocracy, it's very evident that there are defined bloodlines. And these go back a long time ago. But even if you check them out, they're answering to yet a higher bloodline. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, okay. Also, what we do not hear often about is the Eastern bloodlines, like the Khans, the Singhs, Lees, and what have you. Yeah, that is very, very underreported, but it exists.
It does. It does. I am an amateur studier of Sumerian culture. Been doing it for 12 years. And it's very clear with the Sumerian culture, bloodlines were established very quickly. If you look at their pantheon of beliefs, Enki, Inyel, Inanna, Ea, Ah, these were all families. And if you take the Sumerian story, that it was Enki and his mother, Inanna, that were the ones that created us, that the bloodline was divided because Enki's brother, Inyel, was not for us at all. And so we see this replicated all the way today. And it tells me, I think that there may be foundation that this may well exist all the way into the ethereal realm, what we call the spirit realm.
Mm.
I think that there's bloodlines that exist beyond this realm.
Oh yeah, definitely. With the Enki Enlil story, I have to say my stance on that is there are no good guys in that story.
There are none. I contend this. I've read the Quran, studied the Bible for nearly 4 decades. None of those books are what I call real positive for us. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So because all of them have an agenda.
They all do, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're the schmucks. I'm tired of being a schmuck.
Yeah, caught in the middle of this.
Yeah, it's like the rat said, forget the cheese, just get me the hell out of the trap.
Yeah. So some say these, what you have been talking about, the ones that are pulling the strings, some say they are Nephilim bloodlines. Some say the Anunnaki made it with human women and they created a hybrid race that was actually not really allowed, that lead to a war. And where are you coming from?
It's interesting, again, the synchronicity, because this week I was teaching on my channel. We were looking at the Varamas, the Hindu flying machines, and that the Hindus teach their record, which actually predates the Sumerians, that there was a race of beings here that were far greater than Homo sapiens, that these beings were blue in color. They had advanced technology, nuclear, that they used. And we see this in the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, that's just a description of a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
So what is going on here? Because to answer your question, if you look at this, there's something missing. And we're missing a huge gap of this. I contend in my studies that there are just a few, and they may not even be human, because here's my point. Where did these beings go? Did they leave the earth? My contention is I think they're still here.
Yeah, I think they have been enmeshed in the denser realms of Earth and joined the demonic realm.
Yeah.
What some people call the
Yeah.
demonic realm. I think they did not leave, no.
No, I don't think they did. And I think they fashioned our religions because it's odd because, with my dad recently passing and a very good friend of mine meeting a very tragic end, it's very clear to me that we're indoctrinated in this master-slave relationship even into death.
Yeah.
Because the reward is you're either going to be rewarded or you're going to be punished.
Mm.
And I say that's nonsense.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, yeah, but nevertheless, it's kind of like the thing about Antarctica, that the theory that there's an inner Earth, that there are those of us who live on the surface who are actually controlled by those who got smart and realized the surface is not really the place to be. It's really on the inside of the earth where you really want to be. And, there's evidence that says that may very well, in fact, be the case.
Mm. So these bloodlines, of course, what we get from them is definitely the divine right to rule. Yeah, this totally insane assumption that there is somebody ordained by God, allegedly, and he has absolute power. We had absolute monarchies here in Europe. And the divine right of kings means they cannot be held subject to any earthly authority. And in some ways, we have it today as well. Meaning, I know for a fact that during all that time we had this Mrs. Merkel here in Germany, that hundreds of people tried to sue her, yeah, for various reasons, not just because of COVID. This has been going on for years. It's the answer always is she has immunity.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and today we see the same nonsense. You know, when the royal family in England is attending the Christmas mass, yeah, all the idiots are standing there with their little paper flags. Whee!
I guess my question, it's interesting. I'll inject this into the conversation.
Mm,
So we have the ruling class. I mean, it's obvious we do. And there's, even if you want to look at a democratic representation of government, it's just another monarchical system. And our government today shows that. But I want to inject this into the conversation. We are assuming that these bloodlines are the same bloodlines that we call humans. I contend
no.
there is a separate bloodline that is not human.
Mm,
They may mate with humans, but their bloodline within itself is not of this world. It's not even of this same, I would say, cellular structure.
yeah, I would totally agree. And that might be one of the reasons why they are very, very conscious of their class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
And
they're very old, I hear. I hear some of them are, and I've only read this in academic papers, that the stories are that we get this actually from India, because we know that there is a certain level of humans over there that are well over 700 years old. And it is said that this ruling class, they don't age like we do. And it's amazing because their appearance, as I have been studying this, it's rare. And if one generation actually sees one of them, it's very rare.
what do you
But,
mean?
well, it's the fact that they don't come out they don't mix with us.
Oh, no, of course not.
Yeah. Um, it's real interesting because we're finding out the sensitivity of our brains. And they know now that at certain microwave frequencies, it can turn on something inside of us that they call the God voice.
Mm,
And it's what drives us to believe in a God to begin with. I mean, the question could be easily asked, why a God? What is a God? Is a God a human personification, or is a God merely a human thought? The evidence would suggest that it's more thought than it is in actuality. But yet we build our whole constructs by a set of rules handed down by a superior being.
mm.
Some say they're reptilians, some saying they're the Orions, some say they're the Zeta Reticulans. I don't know.
Yeah, and the Orion constellation, there are a lot of reptilians, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been reading this one paper on my channel called the Time Loop
Mm,
Chronicles.
mm,
And as you know, the theory is out there, and I have gotten, Judith, I have 3 different professors right now that I'm emailing back and forth with. This is just more than a hypothesis. This is potentially something that is very real. It may not be an exact time loop, but it's definitely, there's evidence of something manipulating even what we call time.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you go back to where with the Hindus, the Indian culture, the fact that they had flying machines, they had laser light weapons, and then all of a sudden we have a void.
Mm,
And even in the Bible, which is really interesting. In the Old Testament, there is a minor prophet called Zechariah. And in the book of Zechariah, the angel has come down and is talking to the prophet. And the prophet looks to the east and he sees a flying saucer coming at him. Now, he described it as a flying scroll. And when the craft came up to where they were at, there were two females that were the pilots of this craft. And Zechariah asked the angel, he says, "What is this?" And he said, "They come from the land of Sumer." I mean, you pick up these little clues and you're going, okay, all right, so now, wait a minute. So are we talking about the Anunnaki now? Is this what the supposed angel that was telling the prophet that this is where this technology came from? I don't know. And then you have the whole Ezekiel's will. That is a flying saucer. That is a spacecraft. These are bloodlines to me. These are the ruling bloodlines that interface with us. And the question is, are they about to do the same now where we're at it?
Yeah. When we often hear names like Astor, DuPont, Rothschild, Rockefeller, Bundy, but I would say this is not even the pinnacle.
No, I know the DuPont family. So, and they have direct blood relations to, as you know, into the Rockefellers. And yeah, I don't think that, no, that there's something higher than this. And I have, in my past, I've been involved with a number of political organizations that were the average person couldn't get into. And it gave us access to senators, gave us access to Congress people, etc. And I can tell you, Judith, from my experience as an empath, there's a tangible power when you get in these circles, and it's not something that you can quite put your finger on, but it is tangible.
Yeah, I can imagine what you mean. You've, even if you enter, you feel the energy shift.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the bloodlines I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably the same as if, you know, you enter in a room, you did not hear the quarrel, the heated discussion before, but that has gone, but you enter and you can feel that, well,
It's like, excuse me.
something went wrong here.
I'm in the wrong place, man. Got a real chill going on here. And it's true. It's like frying fish. And the next day you can go into a house and you know that they had fish for dinner. You know, that's that type of residual energy. And it's interesting because in my study of bloodlines, I wanted to look at governments. And here in the United States, our chamber where our Congress meets is actually designed as a temple. And I began to question, all right, so we build this temple. Who the hell are we? What are we praying to? What are we giving reverence to? And why is it so ambiguous and never seen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I had, last night, I had a short email conversation with Johnny Cerrucci. And he had been a guest on my show as well, twice now. And so at one point he said, so how are you doing? And I said, yeah, I'm okay, but I'm honestly struggling with the stupid masses. I have no longer patience for that nonsense. I have to tell you, it's getting harder by the day because the nonsense is becoming so clear, and yet people simply, I don't know what's wrong.
It's like my wife and I talk about this quite often. It's difficult to stay in tune in this reality because the absurdity of it is, you described it very well. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I tell Lynn all the time. I said, I swear to God, honey, we have we have time shifted. There's a different dimension or different reality here. I don't know. I mean, when did it come where the lie is now the truth and the truth is now the lie? And it seems like every time we get closer, again, on the study of the bloodlines, these are the cats that they've got the control. And I want to know who they are, because it seems like our species, the Homo sapiens, we're the ones paying the price.
Yeah.
You know, it's every time there's a war, it's not because I think so much of a political ideology. I think it's because these families are bickering between each other and they get bored. And they said, "Well, we need to have a little action here. And what better way to do it than to have a war?
Mhm.
Because we're the ones that are going to lose. We're the ones who are going to spill our blood."
And we are the ones who have to fight it for them.
Thank you. Exactly.
Mhm.
And that is the epitome of being subservient to either something greater than ourselves, or we have been deceived into thinking that there's something greater than ourselves.
Mm.
We seem to be manipulated very easily.
Yeah.
Did I tell you what happened to me a couple of weeks ago?
No.
I was driving where I live. It's a very nice neighborhood. It's a town, and mostly affluent. And I'm just driving along, and then there was a car that came out. This was a Sunday morning, about 8:30 in the morning. It was very little traffic. There was this car that came up and began to drive very erratically. And when it pulled up beside me, the guy in the car pulled a gun
No.
on me.
Oh.
And that was the wrong thing to do. But um, later I found out this very same individual was going all through the neighborhoods where I live, intimidating people, pulling this gun on them. That's the type of insanity I'm talking about, Judith. I mean, it makes no sense.
Mm.
I was in the grocery store and saw two women literally throwing punches.
Over an
And
item or what was?
yeah, I tell you, we were all kind of just sit there with going, what? I mean, because you don't see this in supposedly in, more, you know, areas that you would not think violence. But my point is something is happening to us. And I wonder again, is there a master agenda that these ruling bloodlines are going off of? I mean, is there a schedule of things? Do they know things that we don't know that
Mm.
are going to impact us?
Mm.
And I tell you, I don't like the way the world's going. To me, if there's an agenda, it's a dark agenda. I don't see much light in the world right now.
It's totally anti-life. The latest crazy headline that I read was "Get rid of your pets to save the planet." And on top of all this nonsense, you have the woke warriors
Yeah,
that tell
we
you one bullshit after another.
did you hear what John Kerry said here? He's the climate czar
Yeah.
that Biden has assigned. So John Kerry says we need to get rid of all the carbon in the atmosphere.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And what about the trees? Do you hate
I'm
trees?
going, well, do you understand what life is? I mean, carbon, we are a carbon base form.
Mhm.
I mean, am I wrong? Now, maybe his ruling class is silicon. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? That maybe the planet is being terraformed? Maybe they want to get rid of the Homo sapiens and maybe they want to bring in a new tenant.
Mm. You know what I thought? I have been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. I had Pierre Sabak on, and during that interview, I guess I mentioned it before, I asked him if he thinks that there is an alien race that is running this earth like their personal enterprise, and he said yes. And even there is a lot of quarrel about it. There are those who think enough, and others who are just continuing on. So,
I happen to
and
agree with him.
and
I
and then I thought about this frenzy of testing that is going on right now. Yeah. And the direction where my thoughts went was, is it possible that we are being sold to another owner? You know,
Ooh.
that there will be a change in the so-called CEO or whatever. And are they looking for specific genetics with this frenzy of testing, or are trying to identify certain clusters of people? Because let's face it, we don't really know what is. You think it's going to tell you, yeah, you are COVID positive or negative, and we do not have to talk about the PCR test here. You know, everything has been said about that. And but it feels strange on so many levels. And I thought, yeah, maybe they are trying to get a hold of what type of genetics are running around here. And where do we have to focus on? Maybe they even have decided to get rid of a certain cluster of people. What do I know? Then do you think that's totally nuts, or?
I think that is actually very plausible. Maybe let's take the supposition that I'm in the camp that we're seeing something happening to our quadrant of space. Our solar system is changing. All of our planets are showing signs of changing. Magnetic fields, wind. Our Earth is speeding up. It's rotating faster. There is the belief that our sun is getting and I don't know if you read the paper from Harvard this week. We now know that the composition of the sun is changing chemically. Our sun has been primarily fusing hydrogen. Now that is turning to helium. And this is many who study this field feel that this is the sign that they've been waiting for. This is a sign that there's something changing on our star. Many believe that we're getting close to a potential nova event. And if there is a nova event that takes place, it's going to be a very bad day for Earth, particularly us. So, I believe that if you look at the solar system, planets have value.
I can't wait for the flat earthers to chime in here.
Oh, yes, you know they are. So planets have value. I believe that there is a race of beings that are much older than us. They have been around much longer than us. And they look at commerce on a level that we don't comprehend. This is not buying, this is not having a Google. This is like having the whole freaking solar system. We own it. There has been obviously battles that have taken place. The asteroid belt is nothing more than a destroyed planet.
Tiamat.
Tiamat, thank you. So yes, Judith, I think you are spot on. I did a video 3 years ago on my channel called They're Terraforming Earth. And through all the chemicals they're spraying in the skies, through the food that we're eating, it's very clear that they're changing us. And there's a reason why they're changing us. And I happen to think that there may have been very well been a war that the previous owners lost. And I believe the new owners are coming in. And it kind of goes in with what you were thinking.
Yeah, it feels like it. Yeah.
It does. I mean, we I have seen enough, I have recorded them myself, of UFOs. I don't know what they were. They
Mm,
were obviously a craft of some kind. Is it man-made or is it off-world? I don't know. But
mm,
there's an awful lot of them out there. Bruce Sees All is a channel on YouTube. I love his work. He has a high-powered telescope that he focuses on the moon, and he has numerous captures of what can only be described as large armadas
mm,
of crafts. The theory is that the moon is hollow, that it is actually an artificial sphere. If you study how it got here, and some believe that that's where they're ruling us from.
mm.
Because with women, for instance, the moon has a very definite impact on you and on the females of our species. My wife, who's a nurse, we know that there is this thing called lunatics. That word comes from because at the peak of full moons, and some are more worse, people literally lose their minds.
Yeah, you can speak to any cop. He will tell you during full moon we have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I think that we've lost this. One thing I know about us today, modern man, is that we're amnesics.
mm,
We're walking around as amnesiacs because we don't remember where we came from. And so we're sitting here guessing. And you've got 10,000 different theories. And to me, this is exactly what they want.
keep you
And I think,
guessing. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's the ultimate mind trap, because if you're always guessing, you're never going to be looking over here and saying, well, then who the hell's causing all this? Somebody is. You said something earlier, and I think that it bears bringing out. So when we cracked the human genome in 2005, we discovered something. We discovered that there is no such thing known as a human being. That what we have today, we are a hybrid species. There's no doubt about it. And they found initially there was this 7% factor that of what they called useless or dirty DNA because it didn't have any relationship to anything on this planet.
The so-called junk DNA.
Thank you. Yes.
Mm,
So that tells me right there. And here's the other thing, Judith. I appreciate that we can actually discuss this. This is what people don't think about. If we have been around, all right, let's just say hypothetically, 1,000,000 years.
mm,
It says that within that 1,000,000 years, that we have neither increased in intelligence
mm,
nor longevity. If you say in the modern era, and I use the modern era when we first started using Sanskrit and starting putting our thoughts into the tablets, which the Sumerians did. I mean, that's one of our earliest records. We know this. They had a form of government that's used very much today. They had and brought in, they invented the wheel, they invented the sail, they invented agriculture. My point is this: that was 8,500 years ago. Mankind has not increased in IQ quotient at all. The average IQ of the human being today is now 100.
mm,
We should be at an IQ of over 10,000. Our longevity span is less now. The average human here in America is 78 years old.
mm,
It means I have another 12 years and then boom. So we're living shorter lives. We've made no advancements in our IQ, and yet we sit here and think that this is completely normal and that we're pretty smart people.
mm. So you are in your 60s as well.
Yes, I'll be 66 in June.
Yeah, and I will be 64 in December.
Yeah.
Mm,
And you know, I know I don't look it, I don't feel it. My spiritual energy doesn't see age. It doesn't.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my
I know what you
doctors
mean.
Yeah, and I've got physical reports from my doctors that chronologically I may be gonna get on to 66, but where my body is, I'm actually at 40, 47, 48. So
Yeah, see,
it's up here.
so you will not disappear in 12 years.
I don't think so. I'm probably going to do, I don't know if you ever saw the movie with Dustin Hoffman, Mr. Megorium's Wonderful Emporium. But if you haven't, go and watch that movie. It's a great movie because in the movie, Dustin Hoffman plays this character, Mr. Megorium, who is apparently well over 1,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he says in the movie, he says, you don't understand what life really is. He says, life is timeless. It's in the moment. But he says, my moment is coming where I will be in another moment. And he literally transcended. And anyway, it's a good movie. Check it out.
I will. So going back to this, I have to say I'm becoming more and more allergic towards certain subjects. And one of them is so-called royalty.
Royalty.
My goodness,
Sucks.
it's a made-up construct. There is no such thing as royalty. That is a construct chosen to oppress and control you into oblivion. And when I hear, sometimes even on so-called alternative media, when I hear them talking, yeah, Enki is of a royal cosmic bloodline. The Queen of Orion is very upset with him. And eventually she will step in. We don't know what. I could shoot into the screen when I hear bullshit like that. Yeah, you are awake and you are trying to tell people what's going on, and at the same time you believe and swallow that shit of royalty. I could puke all over the table. I'm sorry.
Now tell us just what you really feel about it. Isn't it odd? Where I'm at in my life, people say, well, you don't believe in God. And I said, well, which God? Which God am I supposed to believe in?
Yeah.
It's taken me nearly 66 years of my life to finally understand something, that there's only one of me. I may be a part of something that's much bigger, but in my reality, in my thoughts, when I'm falling asleep at night or when I wake up in the morning, it's me. It's always just me. I've never met a God, never seen a God. Don't know what a God would look like. Don't know what a God would act like. But I know this. I know that I am of a position that I'm not going to be bowing down to anything. Because if I'm a spirit being, then that means I'm the same essence of what's out there that's beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
And why would I bow down to something that is me?
Yeah.
So,
just because you are in that meat suit right now,
yeah.
that doesn't mean that you are inferior.
No, and God, you're hitting on something, because I think that this becomes a root cause of so much of our ills as a species. Because we are taught that we have to worship something, look up to something. And you know what that does? It gives us an inferiority complex amongst ourselves. And then we compete amongst ourselves. And then I'm better than you because I make so much money, or I'm better than you because I come from this family. It gets into that nonsense when in essence, we're really just all the same.
Mm.
But you get into this whole with, again, it's the bloodlines. It's this component within us that we have to idolize. We have to somehow put something higher above us because we're not worthy enough.
Yeah, I mean, that trauma begins very early on.
Yes, it
And
does.
then you are indoctrinated and you are being told, many thousands of years ago, there was a guy who ate an apple, and that is why you're condemned.
Exactly. You know, the
Go.
whole freaking species is condemned. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're part of the fallen ones. How do you know that? Well, you know, and I'm just going, well, wait a minute. So, Judith, you know what got me free from Christianity and the whole judgment thing?
Hmm.
Is that when I reached the epiphany that I had to ask myself, all right, Steiger, are you perfect or are you imperfect? Because the dogma says that I am perfect, but somehow now I'm imperfect. Well, Judith, I don't know what imperfect acts like. I don't know what perfect act likes. But if you're saying that you're judging me because I'm imperfect, well, that would be an imperfect judgment. And if you're judging me because I'm perfect, but I don't act like perfect, well, then that's an imperfect judgment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cross over singing. I love music. And I've created a place in my new world it's a beach. You're more than
Yeah, we,
welcome when
we
you
will
pass it.
gather there. I will follow you. I
Come on
will
over.
leave the sign.
It'll be up. Come on in. But
In case I go first, I leave the slide for you.
you are too. I'll be looking for them. And you know, I had a dear lady write me, and she said, you know, she said, when you mentioned that, she said, it broke something in me. And she said, I'm free now.
Mm,
She said, I condemn myself because I was imperfect. But she said, I never questioned myself. What does imperfect mean?
mm.
And she finally said, I can look in the mirror and I can love myself. She said, I used to really, she said, I really didn't like the person who was looking back at me. And I said, I think that's part of the
Self-hatred is
program.
such a big subject, and people do not even realize it.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I think it's so sad. I say this even on my radio show, and I want to get you on my radio show.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that yeah? I'll get we'll get a date set on that. Um, you see, what I enjoyed about being a hippie, I was at the age of 15. I was on my own. Great time, 1970. The social revolution was taking place. Rock and roll music was really taking its form. We saw world governments in change and influx. And even though we had violence, even though we had a poor economy, you know what we did have? We had this movement called love. We had this thing called Woodstock, and that became a contagion that began to spread. And I tell you, Judith, I think what got us out of the 70s, where we could have been blowing ourselves up, was that we had something to fall back on.
Mm.
We had this peace, love, and you know, even mainstream media would show the peace sign.
Yeah. I have to say, Woodstock. I'm not saying that was bad music or anything, but honestly, that was a CIA operation. And
Well, they had good music to
the
it. That's
kids
all I got to say.
dumb enough to stand there for 3 days in the mud up to their knees, and yeah. And the CIA made sure that a lot of LSD was there, and I'm pretty sure they have a lot of interesting files about that.
I don't know if it was CIA or not. I do know this. It was the birth of this phenomenon of bringing people together, the music. And that's my whole existence in this realm has been about music. I played the clarinet, the bassoon, and the flute. I was trained in the classical arts of music. And for me, music has always been the key. It's the thing that mathematically it can it can literally change us.
Mm.
Anyway, that's what I see. And I can only go by my own experience. Um, when you're I mean, I was on my own at 15. Um, there was a different feeling. And I remember having the discussions with my friends who were going to the university. And many of them were pre-psych students, and others were going off into social work. And we would talk about what was the influence that this moment back in 1970, 71 was having. And I still remember that the one thing that we all could unify with was music.
Mm.
And and I still say that this was, they contaminated it because I think it was actually an answer of finding the way out of this. But I digress. It was a wonderful time. I got to tell you, it taught me a lot about philosophy. It taught me a lot about human nature.
Yeah. Um, the funny thing is, it wasn't a conscious decision. It just happened. I no longer listen to music. Can you believe that?
Really?
For
Okay.
years now, I can't bring myself to listen to music.
Wow.
What I love is going outside, sitting there, listening to the birds
Mm-hmm.
and whatever else is going on there. But that you will never see me listening to music. I
Ah,
don't know why, but I don't miss it. That's the funny part.
that's see that, and it's part of it within each individual.
Mm,
When the robins finally came back here, and so they typically start singing about 4:30 in the morning. But for my mind, when I'm listening to them, what I see is actually octaves. And so my mind, it's just how I am. I look everything. Music is a foundation of mine that I think, well, as my wife said, always singing. I always have a whistle, and it actually helps for myself, keeps me in a very good place.
yeah,
Yeah,
lovely.
it is. And but I'm like you. There's nothing else. Where I live in Colorado, we can go up into the high country, and to walk amongst the aspens and the pines and listening to that music
Mm,
is, there's nothing compared to it. That's natural music.
yeah, exactly.
That I tell people all the
The whole
time,
enchilada.
it is. It's the spirits talk.
Mm,
The Indians, the Native American Indians here, they have a thing that they, with the wind that talks, that it's spirit talking,
mm,
that the spirit begin to move amongst the tree spirits. And I happen to believe that the tree spirits do exist. I really do. I believe that planet Earth, from what I've been reading, is actually one planet, one plant.
plant, yeah.
Yes, a plant, a literal, at one time it was a single organism. And then it was discovered by an alien race, and they came in and messed the whole thing up. They put us here. And now they're saying, how do we get rid of them now? I mean, and that's my big concern. If we look at the bloodlines as we begin to talk about this, I think that we're in the midst of the largest culling, and that's culling, of our species. I think we're about to be reduced. And I don't mean tomorrow, but I'm telling you, I think the plan has already been implemented and it's already here.
Yeah.
I do.
And that is an alien plan.
It is. And you know what it is? They see us taking the natural resources. They look at us as though we're locusts, that somehow mankind is stripping the planet of its essence of life. And as I have been told by one individual who apparently talks with some of these beings, is that there is this plan underway that we have bred ourselves beyond the point of what they say that it's manageable.
Yeah. And that is also something that is inherent with the Dracos, that
Yes.
they definitely believe that their bloodline, their DNA is so much superior than ours. And all this nonsense, eugenics, racial supremacy. And no, you do not only have that with white people.
Oh, no, no, no.
And yeah, and even our criminal banking system. It's all a gift from them.
Yeah, I guess some people don't think that, off-worlders, again, they think that we may be isolated, but I think commerce is universal.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I do. And again, listen, personally, I think that our species has reached a tipping point. Now, I don't know how you can control us. I don't know how you control the numbers, but I think the numbers are now getting unmanageable. And
I don't
my
even believe that the numbers are correct. I know,
isn't that odd? Yes. Do we really have 7.8 billion people
I
here?
don't believe that.
I don't know. How do I go about counting that? You're right.
You know
Um,
why? Yes, and I have been in cities like, let's say, Peking, Shanghai, Bangkok, a lot of Asian huge cities, they can feel really, really busy, really, really congested, and it can drive you nuts. So,
Mexico City is,
yeah, I've been
holy
there as
crap.
well. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like, what the freak? I
Yeah.
mean, first time I went there, it's like,
Yeah.
are you freaking kidding me? I
Mm.
mean, the plane flying in, I
But
mean,
as soon,
go
but
ahead.
no matter where you live, as soon as you leave the cities, my goodness, there's so much space where nobody is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know what it is in Germany, but I know here that I can go up to Wyoming.
Mm,
There isn't a thing around for as far as you can see, just the wind. And but yeah.
mm.
Now in Germany, how is it there? Do you still have the natural forest, the old growth forest that
Yeah, we still do have that. Yeah.
excellent, excellent. They haven't cutting them down, huh? That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Um, but yeah, who knows? They say that is, and then if you say that there is this nearly 8 billion people that's coming, I always revert back to the Georgia Guidestones.
Mm.
That's psyops. That the number is 500
500
billion.
million.
Yeah.
Mm,
And you know what? I ain't got the ticket. They didn't give me a ticket saying here. But I don't know. And I know because of such the restrictions of the platforms that we're on, you really can't speak. That's why I'll have you over on my radio show, because there we can talk.
mm.
Um, what the evidence is now showing, there is something going on. I mean, there is something now genetically going on.
Mm.
And I got to tell you, it's a little unsettling when you think about this.
Yeah, I would even say it's disturbing.
Freaking frightening is what it is. I mean, it's like, holy crap. Because does human really think this? I mean, Judith, do we really think, for me, I mean, I'm a peaceful, loving guy. I don't think about, well, let me see how I can wipe out, 5 billion people here. And, how can I compensate all their goods and all their wealth? I mean, I don't think like that.
Yeah,
But
because you're
apparently,
not a psychopath. And that
exactly, yeah,
seems to be the trait that
of the
connects
bloodlines.
them all.
Yes, full circle. And the bloodlines, I'm convinced they're insane. They don't think like us because they're not us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had one person that I converse with, and she said, what you have to begin to understand, it's like, if you're going to become like a dog whisperer, you have to become the dog. But humans we don't have any idea to begin to picture in our brains what these beings are, and they don't think like us. I believe that they're completely devoid of compassion.
Mm.
I think that their sense of what emotions are virtually non-existent with them. For them, it's not about good or bad, it's just about assets,
Yeah.
value. When we're born, we have a birth certificate that then goes to the London Exchange, where now my country, and if I was born in Germany, Germany would be doing it. I'm now on that exchange.
Yeah, you're collateral damage.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you are being traded.
And we find this completely normal.
Mm.
See, that to me is something above humans. Humans can't, I don't think that we are just inherently that unstable. I hope we're not. But it apparently appears that, we seem to be patterning ourselves off of something.
Yeah. But the thing, of course, is a lot of people have unlearned how to think for themselves, how to take a step back and let's say, wait a minute, let's figure this out. Somehow this stinks. Um,
It
and
does. Seriously.
they are streaming their television, some
Oh,
of
God.
them 24/7. Yeah. And that shuts your frontal lobe down.
They're zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
They
That
are.
meaning most people are walking around 24/7 in a trance. And they appear to be normal people walking around, doing their thing, going to work, but actually they are in a trance. The next thing that enhances that is the coffee. I had such a wonderful interview with a life coach, and we went very deeply into that coffee subject. There is a reason why every 10 meters there is a coffee shop. Yeah.
You see, I don't
There,
drink
there,
coffee.
there isn't, yeah, I don't either. there is a reason why Microsoft teamed up with Starbucks.
Yeah.
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 And there is a reason that in every TV series, almost in every scene, there's somebody walking around with a coffee cup. Yeah, what does that do? It shuts down your frontal lobe as well. Your slavery becomes hip.
How interesting.
Yeah, they just Google it
Yeah.
if you find time. Then it was not only NASA, other institutions did it as well. Just type in spider on caffeine. And
Okay.
then you will see that they gave the spiders different psychoactive drugs, um, alcohol, LSD, cocaine, um, caffeine, all sorts of things. The one with the caffeine is the worst. Even the one on the spider on cocaine looked better than the one with caffeine. It's not even a net anymore.
How interesting. Well, it's very obvious it's the number one drug of the world.
Yeah.
And we made it legal, and that's why I have my whole debate about drugs between legal and illegal. But I believe that is so interesting. I'm going to look into this because I don't drink coffee, but I can tell you here in the midst of this pandemic, the buildings that are going up in the one street that I Major Boulevard, yeah, 2 new Starbucks going up.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, but wait a minute, there was one just a half a mile back.
Mm.
I have friends, colleagues that actually have bonus points. I mean, they're into this whole thing, and they have to have literally they have to have 4 or 5 Starbucks a day.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm going, why?
Yeah, and there's not only is it
Interesting.
will you start loving your slavery sooner or later, and
There's a song there. Will you start loving your slave? I'm going to write that down. I
yeah,
love that.
I mean, Wayne, honestly, some people, they start defending their enslavement when you listen to them, and that is really what drives me crazy.
Uh, I'll have to.
Another thing is, I interviewed Brian David Anderson from Tri-Vortex. They deal with structured water, and they have a lot of interesting tools helping you to do structured water. And You can also put it on your body. It structures the fluids in your body and so on and so forth. So during that interview, Brian said, a couple of years ago, I always asked, and he had a lot of men that came with prostate cancer. And he said, I always ask them, how do you drink coffee? And he said, I don't do that anymore. I just ask how much coffee.
Wow.
And he said, I never had one that did not drink coffee.
I'm fortunate. I'm caffeine sensitive, so I can't drink anything. And I used to drink coffee decades ago, but there was something within me who said, stop.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah. That was 30 years ago.
I just want you had a very, very interesting thing that you talked about on your show about Ted Bundy. Tell the audience a little bit, because he also belongs to this Bundy bloodline.
Yeah. Now I have to recall back that. Help me out on that one, because there was a whole series I did. It was Bundy and his whole in his mass murdering thing. It's like he's said he never felt any remorse. There was never no voice in his head.
A serial killer.
Yeah, he completely was, and he was aware of his bloodline.
Yeah.
Now that was the freaky thing, but he saw it not as this, how shall we say, good thing. He said it was kind of like their thing. Blood.
He nailed it. He
Yes, he
actually
did.
said the truth.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
His girlfriend, because she was the one who he really kind of opened up to. And this guy freaks me out. I mean, I'm glad he ain't around anymore, because he saw something. He realized a knowledge that the rest of us don't think about. And each one of his victims were more of a sacrifice than they were a murder victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that fits perfectly what he said. And that is why they love blood sacrifices. That is why they have the season of sacrifice that will end.
That was the other point.
Yeah.
His killing was there was a distinct pattern. Wasn't just randomness to it. I mean, yeah, this guy, he gives me the creeps, even though he has passed on, because his thinking was not what we were told. I mean, we thought he was another, like, John Casey.
Yeah.
It was interesting because he said that he felt it was not just an urge, but there was something like, there was this sense of profoundness moment when the victim was chosen, and it was almost like there was a ritual that he was going through. I tell you, I think it was communicated back to his bloodline. That's what they do. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick up on that, because the other families, they're just as warped as he was. I mean, there is who is it? I can't remember the name, and it's just right at the tip of my tongue. But this family, they get into some weird it's very. Thank you. They are some there's some freaky people, man. That's all I got to say. From freaky stuff, man. They really are. They're into stuff that where do people think of this? That's all I'll say.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we have a lot of house cleaning to do.
Oh boy.
For ourselves, you know what I mean? Because predominantly we are playing along.
I say that, we bought the ticket.
Yeah.
We seem to be enjoying it, but I think it's only because we haven't seen a alternative.
Yeah.
And it appears that
But
man,
but but we have the gift of imagination.
we do.
So it shouldn't be that hard to
They
imagine
hijacked it.
something better.
I think we're the engine that makes the manifestation of their agenda possible.
Oh yeah, yeah, because
If
we
we,
play along.
yeah, if we weren't here giving the energy, the creativeness, that magic aspect, and we manifest it. My frustration for the last couple of years is that what's happening, we have this enlightening group of people around the world that are seeing things differently, but yet we're still giving our energy and creating and manifesting this monster that I look out today that I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't.
And I think all these hierarchies and structures that we have here, that sets people up for a slave mentality. You always have this master slave, a royalty peasant.
Mm.
And yeah, then they're telling you war and killing is necessary. It's for a good cause.
Yeah, isn't it? That's exactly what they say. I think that we're the rebels, Judith, when there's millions like us.
Mm,
But we're a real pain in the ass to the structure on the other side, because we're the ones that are going to tell them to up themselves and not having any part of it.
mm,
And I think that at some point in time where we just have to stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
mm. Yeah, we
Yeah,
we, we definitely have to.
we got to.
So some people say that all hierarchical structures are archontic. Would you agree?
Or what?
Archontic, archons.
Possibly, I question, the definition of an archon is because in that it's almost, to me, it's almost like a mystical figure. I don't know what, I know what the intent is, but I would say that this unseen ruling class, yeah,
Mhm.
I think that it is. It may very well be, as I've said before, these are the original occupants of this planet.
The archons?
Yeah.
I have to think about that.
Think about it. Otherwise, it entitles that says that they are. It gets into the structure again, the hierarchy. Who is the main player?
The
Which
main
class are
honcho,
you?
the head
Yeah,
honcho.
yeah. I mean, when I was into biblical studies, particularly Paul and his writings, Paul in many ways was a mystic, and I particularly remember in Ephesians 6 where he talks about the structure of this, where he lists every realm and where they stand in the hierarchy of the other, over in the spirit side. And, you have dominions, then you have lords, then you have, which I guess we would call the archons. So either they're a ruling class or they're a part of something that we may not even know about. I don't know.
Mm.
What do you think they are?
Um, I see them predominantly as interdimensional beings.
Mm,
And yes, the Greek word means ruler. And but I wouldn't say they were and that's just my feeling now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm because as I said, I have to think about it. But to me, it feels as if they invaded here very early on. And then the mess started. And since then, and I guess there might have been a time where humans were aware of the fact that there is something non-human here, but we lost that, as you said, amnesia.
And then you get into the whole subject matter of if, and it's a good point. We haven't brought this up, but interdimensional existence. There's clear evidence that in every culture, there are references to that. Again, I make reference back to, the New Testament, the Mount Transfiguration. You have the Christ walking up, taking 3 humans with him, and they enter into a different dimension. Just that quick. You see, let's extrapolate that out, because that implies then if you actually have the ability of interdimensional beings ruling into the 3D physical realm, the physical realm is always going to be at a disadvantage.
Of course.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting, because it sets up for the perfect scenario. You can rule, never be seen, but yet you're impacting the very physical reality of those in this realm. I hate that idea, but it may be very well true, though, because it sucks. I mean, I don't like anything predetermining my destiny.
Yeah.
I don't like that, Judith. It pisses me off. I was a victim of that for nearly, 45 years of my life, and it never worked out well for me. And I said, I had enough of this. That's why I don't believe in prophecy. If prophecy exists, then it's nothing more than pre-programming. It means my existence here is completely useless. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a little tiny ball in the game.
Yeah, screw that. We all like to.
Another thing that goes along with that, and I guess you would agree, I despise any and all blood sacrifices, be it animal or human.
Yes.
And that is one of the greatest. Yeah, I cannot come to terms with that. I cannot, the entire biblical story, it starts, one of the first scenes is Abraham, where he is willing to sacrifice his son. Very weird. Yeah. Then we have later on, and then it is said that foreshadows what Jesus then later did. I cannot come to terms with that, that the highest intelligence in this universe couldn't come up with a better idea than a blood sacrifice. I think that is evil. It is dark. To me, that is satanic. I'm sorry.
It's cannibalism.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the biggest regret I have is ever partaking in communion. Yeah. Because it's a blood cult. When you're drinking the blood of my body, yeah, I know that, and yeah, it's a sick way to be. It's yeah. So
today I read one webpage, and she distinguishes between Yahweh and Jehovah. To them, they are not to her they are not the same. Plus, she said that Yahweh is an entire collective that resides on Saturn.
I've heard similar thoughts like that. Listen, I don't know who Yahweh is. I don't know who the Elohim are, because my whole contention is that if George Smith in 1949 from the the museum in London, when he began to break the code on the Sumerian tablets, there's no reference to any Yahweh. There's no reference to any Elohim. So I tell people that are in that mindset, you're playing games. These are make-believe. They don't exist. Because if they existed, then what you're saying is that they're actually Enki or Enyel. It can't be Yahweh, can't be Jehovah, can't be the Elohim. So who are the Elohim? It shows me that they're an invading species.
Yeah.
They're the ones that came in here with this goddamn blood sacrifice. I
Mm.
mean, Abram meets this deity, and the first thing the deity does is that he slaughters an animal. I bet the animal kingdom feels real good about this.
Yeah,
And
they
then
are
has,
excited. Mm.
yeah. And then Abram has to step in the bowels. That's, in other words, he's walking in the intestines, into the stomach, and what have you. His feet are bloody. And this is where this God is going to meet him and make a covenant with him.
Mm.
Oh, really? And then it gets worse all the way through for the rest of the entire story, leading to this fake Jesus that never happened. But again, the symbology of it is a blood sacrifice.
Yeah.
And now, in order to believe in him, you have to become a cannibal and begin to drink blood and eat flesh, whether it's metaphorically or allegorically, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But because you accept it.
Oh, and it's a damn virus that has infected humanity for far too long. And then you got the same damn thing with the Muslims. I mean, Allah is one of the most bloodiest deities that's out there.
Mm.
And you know, I get it's the problem with the Abrahamic religions. And it really is. And it's been the one that put us into the dark ages for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And we're coming out of this dark age, and we're still, Judith, we're still confused, and we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been fun. It really has been.
Do you think there is an underlying deep hidden desire of being saved by somebody?
Oh, I think it's a cop out. I think as a species, we're so afraid of ourselves.
Mm.
And until the day where man shreds off the gods and takes responsibility for himself, we're going to be in this mindset wanting a savior to come and rescue us and like that make it all better.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen. But people live and die with that belief.
Yeah, and you know, they can.
I figure everyone has the right to believe whatever they want, you know.
Yes.
I just contend that I tell my Christian friends, show me in the New Testament where it names a Christian God.
Mm.
There is no Christian God named. So how do you have a religion based on a God that doesn't exist, that's not named, and yet look at what it does? That's how messed up we are. And I have preachers who write me and say that, you know, I've destroyed their faith, because one preacher went back and started studying his Bible. He was a graduate from Bible college, and he said, here I am. He said, I'm 78 years old, still preaching. And he said, and then you challenged me to go find the name where my Bible names the Christian God. And he said, there is no name.
Yeah, of course there is. It's all assumption.
It is complete assumption, which means it's a complete fallacy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Wayne, that was delightful. I thank you so much. I don't want to keep you any longer. You have stuff to do.
Oh, Judith, I'm going to get you on my radio show because I think we can really have a good conversation where we don't have to be concerned with what we say, because there's a lot more I think you and I could say in a much more, how should we say, brutally honest, open forum.
Drastic.
Yes.
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 Let's get drastic.
JW rides again. Oh, and I'll have you back over on my channel too, because we got into some really and it's all pieces. I mean, it's like we've got this 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. We know what the picture is supposed to look like. Now, can we get all the pieces together?
And who knows how many pieces are hidden, tablets that have never been found, never been read. You know, we don't know.
And you know what the worst outcome could be? This has happened to me. So you're putting a 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, and you get down to the last piece, and it ain't in the box. It ain't nowhere. I didn't pack it. Oh man, yeah. That's what I don't like. It's like you go through all this and you're going, well, where's the last piece?
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this has been fun, Drew. I had so much enjoy it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. So, guys, that was it. Night Flight for today with the wonderful Wayne Steiger. I have so many Waynes on my channel: Wayne Bush, Wayne Steiger,
Wow.
Wayne McRoy, Gary Wayne. And you know, sometimes it gets
It's just your energy, Judith. The Waynes, we dig it.
we take it.
Judith's channel is where Wayne's World comes to reality.
Okay. So bye-bye. Until
Thank you,
next time.
Judith. All
Stay
right.
safe and sound. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.